Have you ever wondered why serial killers, the shadows lurking on the edges of society, manage to grip our collective imagination so tightly? There's an unsettling allure to these figures, a paradoxical fascination that we often find hard to explain. We're horrified by their actions, yet we can't seem to look away. From the infamous Jack the Ripper who stalked the streets of London in the late 19th century, to the notorious Zodiac Killer who terrorized Northern California in the late 60s and early 70s, these figures have captured the public's attention and have become entrenched in our cultural psyche. But today, we're shifting our gaze towards Mexico, a country that has had its fair share of chilling figures. The stories we'll discuss are not for the faint-hearted. They're tales of people who have crossed the line that separates us from our darkest selves, people who have become the embodiment of our deepest fears. So buckle up as we delve into the chilling world of Mexico's most notorious serial killers. Our journey into darkness begins in the late 1800s with Francisco Guerrero Perez, also known as the Mexican Vampire. Born into a world of poverty and hardship, Guerrero's life story is as chilling as it is tragic. He was a man whose life was shaped by desperation and darkness, and it was these very circumstances that led him down a path of unimaginable horror. Guerrero's crimes were gruesome and shocking, even to the hardened detectives of the era. His victims were often young, vulnerable women, whom he lured with false promises and deceit. His modus operandi was brutal, earning him his dreaded nickname. The public was both terrified and captivated, as the tales of the Mexican Vampire filled newspapers and conversations alike. But it wasn't just the nature of his crimes that shocked the nation. It was the sheer number of his victims. Some estimates suggest that Guerrero may have been responsible for the deaths of more than 20 individuals. His reign of terror seemed unstoppable, leaving a trail of fear and devastation in its wake. As the body count grew and the public outcry intensified, the Mexican justice system was put to the test. The hunt for Guerrero became a national obsession, with law enforcement agencies under immense pressure to bring him to justice. When he was finally apprehended, the trial was swift and decisive. Guerrero was found guilty and sentenced to death, bringing an end to his reign of terror. The public reaction to Guerrero's atrocities was a mix of relief and horror. Relief that the monster was finally behind bars, and horror at the sheer scale of his crimes. His story was a grim reminder of the depths of human depravity, and it made a lasting impression on the Mexican psyche. Guerrero's story set a terrifying precedent, but unfortunately, he was only the beginning. His case opened the floodgates to a dark undercurrent, revealing the existence of others like him in our midst. And as we delve deeper into the unsettling allure of serial killers, we'll find that Guerrero was just the tip of the iceberg. In the early 2000s, a new kind of terror emerged, challenging the stereotype of male violence. Enter Juana Barraza, the old lady killer. Juana Barraza, a professional wrestler turned serial killer, was a figure who defied the typical image of a violent criminal. Born into poverty and hardship, Barraza's life was marked by a series of personal tragedies. Her early years were filled with abuse, neglect, and a struggle for survival that ultimately shaped her into a killer. Barraza's victims were elderly women, often living alone. She gained their trust under the pretense of being a government official offering aid. Once inside their homes, Barraza would strangle her victims to death with items found within their homes, a chilling testament to her cold-blooded efficiency. But what drove Barraza to commit these heinous acts? Some say it was her own traumatic past, a cycle of violence that twisted her perception of right and wrong. Others suggest that her crimes were a grotesque form of vengeance, a misguided attempt to exact justice for the wrongs she herself had suffered. Regardless of the motivations behind her actions, the impact of Barraza's crimes was profound. The fact that a woman was capable of such brutality shattered societal norms and expectations. It was a stark reminder that evil does not discriminate, that it can reside in the most unlikely of places. The shock surrounding her case was largely due to her gender and her victims. Women are typically seen as caregivers, not killers, and the elderly are often viewed as a vulnerable group needing protection. Barraza's crimes disrupted these stereotypes, forcing society to confront the uncomfortable truth that anyone can be a perpetrator of violence. Barraza's capture in 2006 brought some relief, but the scars of her crimes remain. Her story is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human heart, a darkness that can lead to unimaginable horror. Barraza's case shattered the illusion of safety and marked a new era in Mexico's history of crime. Fast forward to 2018, and we meet Juan Carlos Hernandez, dubbed the Monster of Ecatepec. A name that would send shivers down the spine of anyone who heard it. It was a moniker earned through a series of horrifying acts that would come to light in the most gruesome fashion. Hernandez was not a monster hidden in the shadows, but one who walked among us, a chilling fact that makes his deeds even more horrifying. His hunting ground was the bustling streets of Ecatepec, a city in Mexico known for its high crime rates. His victims, unsuspecting women who crossed his path. The gruesome nature of his crimes is something that still haunts the memories of those who dared to delve into the dark abyss of his actions. It was not merely the act of taking a life that defined Hernandez's monstrosity, but the chilling lack of remorse and the grotesque manner in which he disposed of his victims. His reign of terror came to an abrupt halt in October 2018. His capture was the result of a meticulously planned operation by the Mexican police, ending a nightmare that had plagued Ecatepec for too long. The media frenzy that followed was nothing short of a circus. Reporters from every corner of the country flocked to Ecatepec, each trying to unravel the mystery of the man behind the monster. The public, while relieved at his capture, were left grappling with the reality of the evil that had lived among them. In the wake of the Monster of Ecatepec, the perception of serial killers in Mexico took a drastic turn. The case served as a stark reminder that such darkness could exist in the most ordinary of places, and in the most ordinary of men. It challenged the very notions of what a serial killer looked like, where they operated, and who they targeted. As the most recent of Mexico's infamous killers, Hernandez's reign of terror is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can exist in the human heart. These notorious figures have left a deep scar on the Mexican psyche, and their influence extends far beyond their individual crimes. The legacy of these serial killers is a complex one, woven into the very fabric of Mexican society and culture. The atrocities they committed have not only forced law enforcement to adapt and evolve, but they've also left a lasting impact on the broader cultural landscape. In the wake of these crimes, law enforcement agencies across Mexico had to grapple with the grim reality of serial killers, leading to significant improvements in forensic science and policing tactics. Unable to ignore the escalating violence, they had to develop new methodologies to track, identify, and capture these predators. But the influence of these killers isn't confined to the realm of law enforcement. They've permeated popular culture, popping up in books, films, and television series, often sensationalized and dramatized for entertainment. These portrayals have a profound effect on public perception, shaping how society views these killers and their heinous acts. Yet, it's not all about the thrill and suspense. Many of these narratives, while grotesque, serve a purpose. They force us to confront the horrifying reality of what humans are capable of, to question the nature of evil, and to grapple with the uncomfortable truth that such monsters can emerge from our midst. These killers have also had an unexpected impact on the arts. Dark and tragic, their stories have inspired a wave of crime fiction and true crime documentaries, reflecting a fascination with the macabre that's as old as storytelling itself. They've become anti-heroes of sorts, their stories a twisted mirror reflecting our deepest fears and darkest curiosities. Yet, beneath the intrigue and the spectacle, the true cost of these crimes is all too real. They've left a trail of heartbreak and trauma, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the shadows. From the pages of history to the silver screen, these serial killers continue to haunt us, a chilling testament to the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface. As we step back from these chilling narratives, we're left with the unsettling paradox of serial killers. The stories of Francisco Guerrero Perez, the old lady killer, and the monster of Ecatepec are undeniably haunting. Yet they have a magnetic pull. We recoil in horror, yet we can't seem to look away. This is the paradox of evil. We fear it, yet we're drawn to it, captivated by the mysteries that surround these figures. The reasons behind their actions, the twisted logic they employ, the macabre fascination they hold over us, it's a puzzle that both terrifies and intrigues. These individuals have left a lasting impact on society and pop culture, their stories woven into the fabric of our collective consciousness. They've become symbols of our deepest fears and our most morbid curiosities. In the end, perhaps our fascination with these figures is a mirror, reflecting our own fears, curiosities, and the darkest corners of our own minds.